Hello and welcome to another trading recap with Justin Low Stocks. So last night was not a good day at all. Did real bad trades. With basically just wasn't thinking my trades through. I was just sort of jumping in trying to catch moves without being patient and trying to wait for a good setup. So GLMD was a massive gapper. It was gapping up 230 I think percent pre-market. I'll show you the daily candle here. It's got no clear resistance as it's broken out. If I go back 4 years, you still won't see a top anywhere near up where it was today, around the 22s to 28s. So it's broken out of its last 3-4 years highs. So it was a ridiculous runner and I shouldn't have been jumping into it as early. I should have been waiting for a better setup, but I did jump into it, and I got into it over here on the market open. So it was climbing up basically all pre-market, and then it had this dip down, and it was like starting to do a U-shape breakout pattern. It was looking like it was coming down off its highs, started building up some volume, especially in the open, and then it was starting to make higher highs, and I was waiting for it to break this 27 area and most likely go to the 30s, as that 30 number is a nice whole number, and a lot of people would no doubt be selling into that $30 area. So I bought in basically straight away as soon as market opened at 26.41, and it went up to 27, but like I said, I was aiming for that break of the higher day, but it didn't come, and it's hard to explain how quick it was moving, but it was going from 27 to 24, which is $3 per share shift in price within a minute. So I was doing this jump, and I was trying to give it some time and give it a chance to be able to move up. But then once it started coming down here and was making lower highs consistently, I was like, I'll get out before it breaks this lower consolidation point, which was lucky I got out where I did, which is this unsolid line on this little green candle when it bounced up a little bit, because I was waiting for this to break these consolidation levels, which it did only 3 or 4 minutes later, and then I would have been further in the red. So I got out there. Then I was keeping an eye on it because there weren't too many plays on today, so this was by far the biggest play that there was. So I kept my eye on it, and I wasn't sure how far it was going to go down. Came down here, which is this 22 area, and it's a decent support line because it bounced off here, and it had bounced here, and it broke out here, as you can see. So I started looking at this point as a good support line, and I kept watching it over the next 10-15 minutes. I saw it come up, and it started coming back down towards this $22 area, and I was like, okay, here it is, it's coming back down to my support. I'll look to buy it around the support area, and hopefully take profits up. I wasn't really aiming for a profit, to be honest with you. I probably should have had my profit in mind. I would say at the time I would have been thinking around here, these consolidation points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points here. So probably $1.50 per share I was aiming for. And I got in, and I was very surprised, and I wasn't expecting it at all, but it just immediately broke down the support that I was buying off, and to the point where it was 1 minute it had already dropped way below where I was going to get out if it dropped below the $22 mark, but it just happened instantly. And I was sort of like, oh well, it's dropped that much now. In 3 minutes it had dropped from 23 down to $20.90, and I was like, well, my rule, if it drops too much too quick, it's got to have a bounce. So then I started waiting for the bounce, and actually I added more once it really hit bottom, because I was like, what I said, it's dropped real far, it'll have to bounce up. So I added a little bit more into this second real red candle down here. That was actually a nice entry, but because I had already entered this at this candle as well, I was already red, and I was still red even though it did bounce up. So it bounced up. I was still red, but I was looking to get out around break even, around this, basically the point where I entered my first lot of shares. I was looking to get out, which means the profit I would have made was just off this second lot of shares. The first amount would have just broken even, but it just missed these points, and I was setting all my sell orders here at 22.30. And when you're talking the stock to move the whole dollar in a minute or so, 20 cents isn't that much. And so I was setting my stops pretty close to where the price was getting, but it just didn't hit those levels, and then it started turning around again. And once it broke the low of this candle, which it did over here, I had to stop out because there's no telling how low it could go. So that was that trade, and I lost. Doesn't look like, I mean, it looks like a big downtrending chart, but considering how far it has gone down, the points where I went down don't look too bad, but they were substantial losses. I went down basically 6% in 2 different trades, and it ended up being about a $350 loss, $400 loss basically. So not a good day at all. Made another trade on NAKD. So this one, it was creating a nice support and resistance area. Like, they were looking very clear. So this one was making a resistance line at this point here. It was the high of the pre-market. So you had it here. There was a lot of consolidation around these areas, you know, within the 5 cent range, 235, 240. So that was a good resistance line to go off, and this was a good support to go off, because it was already coming down here a few times, bounced up, it had bounced off here pre-market, and it had come down here for a second pre-market. So this sort of area between the 210, 25, 210 was a good support area, I thought. So, and after the market opened, it dropped down basically to these areas straight away, 210, and it bounced up. Did a good bounce for 20 cents, which is about 10% on a $2 stock. So once I saw this big red candle, especially because it was just all happened in 1 minute, if it was a gradual drop, I probably wouldn't have got into it, but it was a big drop instantly, and I was like, oh, this should bounce back up, and it was also risking off a support level of this 205, 210 area. So I bought in, I added 3 times here, 1, 2, 3 times I added, and I was looking for it to come back up around the 220 area, around the VWAP sort of zone, which is this white line, trend line. I was looking at it to get back up to there, but it didn't have the volume. The volume faded, and just didn't have the strength to be able to get up. It had, it hit this area around 3 times. Top there, came down, top there, came down, top there, and I was like, I gave it 3 chances and it still wasn't breaking. The volume wasn't really increasing. I just had to get out because it wasn't going my way. There's no point holding a stock that's not going your way. So I ended up stopping out there. Not stopping out, I took my profits, but it was only, I think it was like 20, 30 bucks, and I was already down 400, 450 on the day, so 20 bucks was nothing. But I guess at least it wasn't a red trade. And then I also jumped in down here. Shouldn't have done this. I was just having trouble controlling my emotions. Like I said, it's one of the hardest parts of trading. When you're trading and you just have a big loss and you're just trying to get it back, and that's the quickest way to lose more money, is when you're trying to trade to recover from a loss. It's the instant way to go further into the hole. So don't even ask why I did this, but I bought down here at $1.96. I just thought it was way overextended down. It already broke out at this point. I was like, okay, it broke out. It already dropped, 10%, oh no, 5% or so. I was like, okay, it's overextended on the downside. I'll buy this, expecting it bounce back up to where it broke down around this $2 level, and it didn't bounce at all. It's just faded. I was lucky I set my stop bar at the low of this pre-market, because if I didn't set a stop and I was just hoping for it to go back up, I would have lost big, because it came down another 20 cents or 10% off my stop area. So that trade was silly. But yeah, the other two, that was my reasoning behind it. I should have been more patient and This other one back here, GLMD, it's a crucial mistake, and it's all part of the learning curve. Why you need to set your stops tight, because I was letting these drop dollars per share before I exited them, and that just, you know, especially this one, like, I know it broke real quick, this area, but that's when you need to set your stop when you're making your order, because it just broke down too quick, and then you get stuck in a red trade and you feel trapped, and you know, you want it to come back up at least to a decent point before you take your stop, because you don't want to. I always feel at the beginning when I started trading, it'd have big drops like this, and I would tend to always stop out right where it bottomed out. So you don't want to stop right where it bottoms out, because if it bounces up a little bit, you're going to lose less money. That's why I always wait for these little bounces, but I think I need to stop being as greedy, trying to save the loss on these little bounces and start just taking them sooner, because I could have saved, you know, another $1 per share with this loss if I stopped out up here in the green. Now if I stopped out well, it would have been, instead of a $450 red day, it might have only been a $200, $150 red day, and you know, I could have halved my loss if I stopped out at more appropriate zones and wasn't trying to recover from the red day and go green. I should have just been looking to play my trades in a smart way rather than revenge trade to be able to get back green on the day, especially when you're already in a big hole like $400. You should just be looking at keeping your losses as small as possible from that point. And yeah, so this is how not to trade, but it's all part of the learning curve. You will do trades like this if you start, and you just got to learn from them, move on, and wait for the next day, and not revenge trade the next day as well. It's very important to try to go into the trading day with a clear head to be able to make the right decisions on the price movements. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying it, and just let me know if you want me to do any videos based on something else, and I'll be more than happy to do them. Yeah, so take it easy guys, and I'll catch you again tomorrow. See ya.